pop culture. If it's Jersey, it's on Jersey Central with Burt Barron.
Learn it, know it, live it.
On the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey.
7:09, hour number 2 of Jersey Central on the new Talk Radio WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. It is Burt Barron. We're going to have our contest for you coming up a little bit later on in this 7 o'clock hour. Some tickets to Starplex Cinemas. We're going to give away a pair there. And also 2 tickets to the sold-out opening night performance of A Twist of Lemon, the one-man show with Chris Lemon. Fantastic show. It's going to be at the Bickford Theater at the Morris Museum in Morristown. We're going to give away both prizes to one winner coming up in this 7 o'clock hour. Joining me right now on the Raritan Bay Medical Center Jersey Newsmaker Hotline, let's say hello to a journalist who had the opportunity to previously interview Bobby Christina Brown, who, of course, passed away over the weekend. Services in Atlanta this week, and she's going to be flown back to New Jersey. Final resting place will be besides her mom at the cemetery there in Westfield. But let's talk to the journalist who's with us now this morning who interviewed her recently. Lisa Durden is with us here on Jersey Central. Lisa, good morning. It's Burt Barron. How are you?
How are you? Thanks for inviting me.
Good to have you here. You know, I was really, I felt kind of heartbroken when I got news on Sunday night about Bobby Christina's passing. I know she had been kind of lingering for several months, and I know the prognosis was bad, but just something about me felt very bad when she passed away. To die so young and everything that this young girl has been through, part of me felt really bad for her, and I still feel pretty bad about what happened. But talk about this relationship that she had with Nick Gordon. I think people maybe are kind of not looking as closely as they should. You had the chance to talk to her recently about him, right?
Excuse me. I hope I'm not coming down with a cold. Not super recently.
Okay.
Back in 2011, when they were premiering their docuseries called Houston's On Our Own, which was produced by a production company and aired on Lifetime. I was able to sit down with them at the premiere and talk for a couple of hours, and both Nick and Bobby Christina. And actually, it was a weird thing because it was not very long after the death of her mom. It was actually only like a couple of months later. Her mother died, I think, in February of 2011, and this was airing sometime around October. So, people were saying, this is too soon, and she wouldn't be able to take it, and, they should wait. So I thought the same thing. But when I sat down with her, she was like, oh, no, I'm glad that we're doing this docuseries. I get a chance to show people that I'm healing, and then I get to prove to my mom up there in the sky that I can make it on my own. So she really wanted to prove to people that she wasn't just some, poor little rich girl who doesn't have any skills and she's not, getting her life together. So she was in good spirits at that time. And Nick wasn't really that talkative, but they seemed, very in love. They were super nice. So it was fine. So I was hopeful. I still knew when she was, moving on, but is she really ready? So I was just thinking, okay, I'm glad she's doing this. I'm hopeful. But, after the docuseries, and we saw in the docuseries that she was still somewhat of a train wreck, in terms of getting high and, living reckless and all those kinds of things. So I was just really rooting for her. I think we all were hopeful. And so shortly thereafter, we heard about this incident where she was found in the tub submerged underwater.
Right. What did you take away when you talked to them together? Were they genuinely in love? Were they just together out of convenience? Or what did you take away when you talked to them together?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not like the romantic. So
Okay.
when I say, I think they're in love, you really seem to be in love. So I do feel like they really were in love. I feel like it was genuine love. However, I'm a little long in the tooth, and I've been around the block a couple of times. So I do not feel that because you're in love that you don't do hurtful things to each other and around each other.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe the rumors that were swirling even then that their relationship was abusive. I feel like he was controlling. Nothing screamed he's controlling at the event. But I do believe some of the things that were happening just in the media that led me to believe that, this could be an abusive relationship. So I do feel that he was controlling, the relationship was abusive, and I know for sure that they both got high together. So it was almost like, freaking frats together.
Yeah.
Two people getting high together can't really help each other.
No, no, that's true. Lisa Durden is our guest.
So that was not a good thing. That
Yeah.
was kind of like the Bobby and Whitney relationship,
Right.
being played out with them, because Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston were both, getting high together. They were getting drunk together. It was just a disaster.
Eerily similar. You're right. Lisa Durden is our
Yeah.
guest. She's a journalist who's previously interviewed Bobby Christina Brown, who unfortunately passed away over the weekend. We're just kind of getting her perspective and what she was able to take away in knowing Bobby Christina personally. He has been called her husband, but then there have been other people that have said, Lisa, that they were never married. Were they husband and wife, or weren't they?
No, they were never married.
They weren't. Okay.
No, that's incorrect. So they were actually just, boyfriend and girlfriend. I think they were supposedly at some point engaged. And, the family really didn't like it. The family really didn't want them to be together because, they weren't brother and sister, but he was sort of raised a bit by Whitney. I don't know, what happened to his family. I'm not for sure how they came to know him. We didn't talk that deeply. It was a red carpet event, so we didn't get into super, super personal things. So then, at some point they turned around and started dating each other because they lived together, sort of like brother and sister growing up.
Gotcha.
They really didn't really care for that.
Okay.
And actually, what I think, I guess what they say was the last straw for her leading into this. I don't know if it was the drugs, or did he physically abuse her, and her injuries caused her to have this, to go into this coma and then, died a few months later. I'm not for sure that. I think they're going to look into that.
Yeah.
Remember the movie, the Whitney movie that was a controversial movie that they didn't want made, the family didn't want made to be on Lifetime. They wanted it to be something that was,
I remember it very well, yes.
So the controversial movies being made, Bobby Christina did not want to have this movie made without her input, without her being a part of it. She actually wanted to play her mom. So she had this Twitter, not battle, because I don't think Angela Bassett got involved in a back and forth, but this Twitter rant, if you will, to, the director, Angela Bassett, about, why wasn't she involved? And it was this big thing. She was angry, super angry, super angry. Well, they didn't involve her. She wasn't a part of it. They did it without her blessing. The movie on Lifetime premiered January 17th of 2015. She was found submerged underwater January 31st, 2015.
That's right. I forgot how close together those two events were. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I do remember watching the movie.
Yeah, I do not think that in any way Lifetime's at fault or Angela Bassett's at fault, but I do feel that film was too soon because she didn't want that to happen without her input. So I'm imagining that when you saw that film and you're Bobby Christina and you see your life being played out on camera, on film, where they're taking you back to 14 years of your mother and father's relationship, of the drug addiction and the fights and the alcoholism and all of that drama, and you're visually seeing it, it had to be disturbing. I was disturbed watching it, and I'm grown.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even my family. So I do think that seeing those images had to play a role. And think about it. After that film, can you imagine all of the social media she had to read and the positives and negatives of her mom? Because it really wasn't about Whitney. It should have been called Bobby and Whitney. It was about their relationship. So I think that was one of the contributing factors to her just checking out. I just think she maybe went on a binge. I'm not for sure.
Yeah, and that movie really portrayed Bobby Brown as like some good guy, which I didn't understand at all either. He is, in my opinion, he is responsible for Whitney Houston's death and downfall, in my opinion.
Well, I hate to bring the facts to the table in such a sad time, but I can't speak on how good he was as a man. But Whitney Houston was on drugs long before Bobby Brown.
Are you sure about that? Yeah.
Unfortunately, I
Okay.
don't want to state these facts, but these are facts. Whitney
Okay.
Houston was on drugs long before we knew her name. Whitney Houston started doing drugs in high school when she was here in New Jersey. And unfortunately, if for those of you who don't know this, her brother got her on drugs. When I say got her on drugs, nobody forces you, but you get the point. Introduced her to drugs. And the facts came out shortly after she died. The brother, she has more than one brother, but this particular brother and her mom was interviewed by Oprah on a show called Next Chapter or something like that on OWN. And he admitted that because she asked the direct question. People didn't like Bobby in the family. Is it because Bobby Brown got Whitney on drugs? Everyone always believed that. Is that true? I'm paraphrasing the question.
Mm-hmm.
He said no. Bobby Brown did not. He said, I did. I got my sister on drugs. And he said, to this day, that haunts me.
Very
So he was
interesting.
young. She was young. He was a little older, but he was still a young teenager. Maybe, I don't know the distance in terms of age.
Right.
But he was getting high, and he was giving his sister some drugs to get high, thinking we're having a good time.
Yeah.
I don't think he entertained at that time. This is going to turn into a crackhead situation
Right.
because nobody who gets high and they flirt with drugs or they're doing it recreationally thinks I'm going to be a heroin addict. I'm going to be a meth head. You
Yep.
don't think that when you're starting out in a partying situation.
Right.
So of course, years later, we see that it did catch up with us.
Yeah.
So no, Bobby. As a matter of fact, Bobby Brown never knew anything about what he calls the narcotic. That's his phrase.
The narcotic. Okay. All right. Well,
The narcotic. So Bobby
interesting.
Brown really was more of a drinker. He wasn't into drugs. So
Interesting
when it came
perspective.
time to
Yeah, interesting
I'm sorry, go
perspective
ahead.
on everything, Lisa. But the book obviously is still open on Bobby Cristino. Then we'll get to the bottom of what happened to her eventually. I hope someday. Is
I
there?
think so. I think they should wage an investigation just for us to know for sure. I'm
Yeah.
not for sure. I do know that they had an abusive relationship. Were those injuries related? I just want to know once and for all.
Yeah, me too. Well, we'll keep an eye on this, and thank you so much for your time this morning. I really
Oh,
appreciate
it's
your
over
insight.
already, but let me come back anytime.
You bet. We will have you back again, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, take care. Lisa Durden, journalist. My